You drive a taxi in Chicago long enough, and you stop seeing the city as a collection of buildings or tourist spots. You start seeing it as a living, breathing beast. It has moods. In the summer, the asphalt gets so hot, it feels like the streets are trying to melt your tires. In the winter, the beast goes cold. It tries to freeze you out. It was one of those nights in mid-February where the air hurts your face. The wind whips off Lake Michigan and cuts right through your coat, finding every gap in your layers. The roads were covered in that dirty, gray slush that is not quite ice and not quite water. Just a freezing slurry that sprays up onto your windshield every time a bus passes you. I have been driving a cab for 12 years. I own my own medallion, or at least I did before the rideshare apps tanked the value. I drive a Crown Victoria. It is a boat of a car, heavy and solid. You feel safe in a Crown Vic. It is like driving a tank with leather seats. I usually work the graveyard shift from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. That is when the real money is made. And frankly, that is when the interesting people come out. You get the business people rushing to late flights, the bartenders closing up shop, the couples fighting on street corners. You learn to read people instantly. You look at their shoes, their eyes, and their hands. You assess the risk. It was 3:15 in the morning. I was parked near the loop, drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago, debating whether to call it a night. The radio crackled. Dispatch had a scheduled pickup way out in the North Shore suburbs. Normally, I would not take a fare that far out so late, but the dispatcher said it was a premium airport transfer. That means a flat rate, usually double the meter, plus a hefty tip. I figured I could use the cash to pay off some bills, so I keyed the mic and took the job. The drive up there was quiet. The highway was empty, just endless rows of amber streetlights flickering past. The address was in Winnetka. If you know Chicago, you know Winnetka is old money. We are talking massive brick mansions, iron gates, and driveways long enough to land a plane on. I pulled up to the house. It was a sprawling colonial estate, set back from the road behind a line of tall oak trees. The house was dark. Not a single light was on, except for the porch lantern, which cast a weak yellow glow on the front steps. I checked my watch. 3:55 a.m. I was 5 minutes early. I put the car in park and kept the engine running to keep the heat blasting. I watched the front door. Usually, with these airport runs, people are waiting by the window. They are anxious about missing their flight. But this house was still as a tomb. At exactly 4 a.m., the front door opened. A man stepped out. He was dressed immaculately. He wore a long camel-hair trench coat, a fedora, and polished leather shoes that looked like they cost more than my car. He didn't look like he was going on vacation. He looked like he was fleeing the country. He turned back, locked the door carefully, and then bent down to pick something up. It was a trunk. Not a suitcase with wheels, but an old-school steamer trunk. It looked like something from the 1920s, made of dark wood and reinforced with brass corners. It was large, maybe 4 feet long and 2 feet deep. The man gripped the leather handle and heaved. I saw his body strain. His posture dipped, and he grunted. This thing was heavy, seriously heavy. I popped the trunk of the Crown Vic and got out to help him. It is part of the service. You help with the bags. I walked around to the back of the car, my boots crunching in the frozen snow. "Good morning," I said, reaching for the other side of the trunk. "Let me give you a hand with that." The man reacted like I had tried to tase him. He jerked the trunk away, putting his body between me and the luggage. "No," he snapped. His voice was sharp, cracking the silence of the neighborhood. He took a breath and composed himself. "I mean, no thank you. I have it. It is fragile, antique. I prefer to handle it myself. I put my hands up in surrender. Okay, pal. You are the boss. Just do not scratch the bumper. I stepped back and watched him. He was struggling. He had to use both hands to lift this thing. He braced his knees against the back of my car and heaved it up. When he dropped it into the trunk of my taxi, the entire car sank. I mean, the suspension groaned. I saw the rear tires bulge out under the weight. I remember thinking, what does he have in there? Gold bricks? Lead bars? He slammed the trunk lid shut, breathing hard. He was sweating. It was 10 degrees outside, and sweat was rolling down his forehead. He wiped it away with a silk handkerchief, gave me a tight nod, and climbed into the back seat. I got in the front and locked the doors. O'Hare, right? United Terminal? No, he said. He did not make eye contact. He was staring out the window at his house. Not the airport. Take me to the industrial district. Down by the Calumet River. I will give you the specific address when we get closer. Red flag number 1. The dispatch said airport transfer. Now we are going to the industrial wasteland at 4 in the morning? But I looked at the meter. He had already pulled out a thick roll of cash and set $300 bills on the center console. That covers the change in destination, he said. Just drive. Money talks. I put the car in drive and pulled away. The first 20 minutes were dead silent. I kept checking him in the rearview mirror. He was sitting perfectly still, his hands folded in his lap, staring straight ahead. But he was tense. You could see the muscles in his jaw working, grinding his teeth. We hit the expressway and headed south. The heater was humming, making the cab warm and cozy. But about 30 minutes into the ride, I started to smell something. At first, I thought it was just the smell of the industrial corridor. Chicago has a smell near the factory: sulfur, burning rubber, processed soy. But we were not there yet. This smell was coming from inside the car. It was faint at first, a sort of metallic tone, like holding a handful of old pennies. I cracked my window a little to let some fresh air in. Close the window, he said immediately. It is getting a little stuffy in here, I replied. I am cold, he said. Close it. I rolled the window up. The smell got stronger. It started to mix with the smell of the man's cologne. He was wearing something expensive, musky and sweet. The combination was nauseating. Sweet musk and copper. It sat thick in the back of my throat. We hit a pothole near the Roosevelt exit. The roads are terrible there. The car jolted hard. A massive, dull sound came from the trunk. It sounded like a bag of wet cement slamming against the back of the rear seats. The car actually shuddered from the impact of the object shifting. Watch it, the man shouted. He actually lunged forward, grabbing the back of my seat. Drive carefully, you idiot. Hey, relax, I said, looking at him in the mirror. I did not see the hole. That luggage of yours is not secured. It is going to slide around. He sat back, his face pale. Just take it easy, please. I kept driving, but now my mind was working. The weight of that trunk. The way he would not let me touch it. The sudden change in destination. And that smell. It was getting worse. It smelled earthy now, like raw meat that had been left out on the counter too long. I glanced in the rearview mirror again. The streetlights from the highway were rhythmically lighting up the back seat. Flash, dark, flash, dark. In one of the flashes, I saw something. On the gray fabric of the back seat, right where the bottom cushion meets the backrest, there was a stain. A dark, wet patch was spreading. It was seeping through from the trunk. My heart skipped a beat. Maybe a bottle of wine broke. Maybe he had olive oil in there? But oil does not smell like iron. Wine does not smell like a butcher shop. I looked at the stain again. It was dark red, almost black in the dim light. It was growing, inching down the fabric. I looked at the man's face in the mirror. He was not looking out the window anymore. He was looking at the stain. His eyes were wide, fixed on that spreading dark patch. Then, his eyes flicked up and met mine in the mirror. He knew. He knew that I saw it. The silence in the cab changed. It wasn't just awkward anymore. It was dangerous. It was the silence of a predator and prey realizing they are in the same cage. "Keep your eyes on the road," he said softly. "I am," I said. My voice was steady, which surprised me. "Just checking the traffic." "There is no traffic," he said. "Just drive." We are almost there. We were getting close to the river. This area is desolate. Abandoned steel mills, rusted bridges, empty lots filled with shipping containers. There are no streetlights here. No cameras. If he wanted to dump something, this was the place. If he wanted to get rid of a witness, this was the place. I realized with absolute, chilling clarity that I was not going to be paid. I was part of the loose ends. He could not let me drive away after he unloaded that trunk. He would need help moving it, and then he would need to silence the help. I needed to do something. I could not just drive him to his destination. I had to get him out of the car. "Hey," I said. My engine light just came on. "Ignore it," he said. "I can't. The car is overheating. I can smell it." I said, "Ignore it." He leaned forward, and I saw his hand go into his coat pocket. He pulled out a gun. It was a snub-nosed revolver, silver and shiny. He pressed the barrel against the plexiglass partition that separates the front and back seats. "You drive until I tell you to stop. Panic is a funny thing. Sometimes it freezes you. Sometimes it makes you focus." I focused. I knew the geography of this road. About a quarter-mile up, there was a sharp turn under a viaduct. "Okay," I said. "Okay, do not shoot. I am driving." I kept my foot on the gas. We picked up speed. 40 miles per hour. 50. "Slow down," he warned. "I am just trying to get us there," I said. I saw the viaduct coming up. Concrete pillars on both sides. I gripped the steering wheel so hard, my knuckles turned white. "You are going too fast," he yelled. At the last possible second, I slammed on the brakes. I stood on them with both feet. The Crown Vic has an anti-lock braking system, but on slick, icy pavement, physics takes over. The tires locked. The car skidded. But the momentum was the key. The man was not wearing his seatbelt. He flew forward, smashing his face against the plexiglass partition with a sickening crunch. But the real damage came from the trunk. That heavy, antique trunk, filled with whatever dead weight was inside, kept moving. It slammed into the back of the rear seats with the force of a battering ram. The latches holding the rear seats upright snapped like twigs. The seat folded down, and the trunk came sliding through, crushing the man against the partition. The car spun 180 degrees and came to a halt against a guardrail. Silence. I sat there for a second, gasping for air. My chest hurt where the seatbelt had dug in. I looked back. The trunk was wedged halfway into the cab. The man was pinned between the trunk and the partition, unconscious, blood pouring from his nose. And the trunk had burst open. The brass latches had given way on impact. The lid was skewed. I didn't want to look. I really didn't. But I couldn't help it. A hand, a pale, delicate human hand was hanging out of the side of the trunk, limp against the floorboard. It was wearing a wedding ring. I scrambled out of the car. I didn't even put it in park. I just opened the door and ran. I ran until my lungs burned, scrambling up the embankment to the main road, where I flagged down a passing truck. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They found the man still pinned, groaning, trying to push the trunk off of him. They arrested him on the spot. It turned out the man was a prominent surgeon. His wife had gone missing that morning. He was trying to take her to a private incinerator he had access to through a medical waste disposal contact. I never got my cleaning fee for the back seat. I never asked for it. I sold the Crown Vic to a scrapyard the next day. I couldn't stand the smell. Even now, years later, when I walk past a butcher shop or smell cheap copper jewelry, I am back in that car, watching that dark stain spread across the gray fabric. They call it the white knight syndrome. It is this instinct some guys have to save a damsel in distress. You see a girl crying, and your brain shuts off. You just want to help. You want to be the hero. I learned the hard way that sometimes the damsel is the dragon. I was living in Ohio at the time, driving for a ride-share app to make ends meet while I finished my engineering degree. It is boring work. Most of the rides in that part of the state are just taking people from one boring suburb to another, or picking up college kids from bars. But you also get the long rides out into the country. Ohio at night is pitch black. There are no streetlights on the county roads. Just miles and miles of cornfields, tall stalks pressing in on the road like walls. It was a Tuesday night, around 1 a.m. I was about to log off when I got a ping. The pickup location was weird. It was just a pin drop on Route 9, a 2-lane highway about 10 miles out of town. No address, no business name, just a coordinate on a dark stretch of road. The user's name was Sarah. I almost declined it. It looked sketchy, but I had a promotion bonus I was trying to hit, and I needed one more ride. So I turned my Honda Civic around and headed out into the dark. When I got close to the pin, I slowed down. There was nothing out there, just a ditch and the cornfields. Then my headlights swept over a figure standing on the gravel shoulder. It was a young woman. She looked like she had been through a war. She was wearing a thin party dress that was ripped at the shoulder. She was barefoot, standing on the sharp gravel. Her hair was a mess, and mascara was running down her cheeks. She was hugging herself, shivering violently in the cool night air. I stopped the car and unlocked the doors. She did not wait for me to say anything. She ripped the back door open and threw herself into the seat. "Drive!" she screamed. Her voice was raw, terrified. "Just drive, go." I slammed on the gas, tires spinning on the gravel. "Okay, I am going." "Are you okay?" She was curled up in a ball in the back seat, keeping her head down. "He is coming. He is going to find me. You have to get me out of here." My heart was hammering. "Who's coming? Did someone hurt you?" "My boyfriend," she sobbed. He had a knife. He took me out to the woods. He said he was going to unalive me." I jumped out of the car when he slowed down for a turn. I felt a surge of adrenaline and rage. "I am taking you to the police station." "Or the hospital." "No." She sat up, grabbing my headrest. Her grip was incredibly strong. "No police. He is a cop. He has friends on the force. If you take me to the station, he will find me. He will unalive us both." That sounded terrified and paranoid, but in the moment, I believed her. She was so convincing. The fear in her eyes looked real. "Okay," I said, trying to sound calm. "Okay, no cops." "Where do you want to go?" She gave me an address. It was on the south side of the city. It is an area known as the Bottoms. It used to be industrial, but now it is mostly abandoned warehouses and rows of condemned houses. It is not a place you go at 2 a.m. My cousin lives there, she said, sensing my hesitation. He has a gun. He can protect me. Please, just take me there. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. She was shivering, her eyes darting around. I felt like I had to help her. I was her only lifeline. All right, I said. I will get you there. Do not worry. Nobody is going to touch you. I drove fast. I was doing 80 in a 55 zone. I kept checking my mirrors, looking for headlights behind us, expecting a crazy boyfriend to come ramming into my bumper. But the road behind us was empty. About 10 minutes into the ride, the vibe in the car shifted. She stopped crying. It was not a gradual calming down. It was instant. 1 second she was sobbing. The next she was perfectly silent. She sat up straight in the seat. She pulled a phone out of her dress. I hadn't seen the phone before. She must have had it tucked away. She tapped the screen a few times and then held it to her ear. I am inbound, she said. Her voice. It was different. The shaky, high-pitched fear was gone. Her voice was flat, cold, bored. Yeah, she said into the phone. Blue Honda, 1 male. No weapon that I can see. Yeah, he bought the story hook, line, and sinker. My blood ran cold. I stared at her in the mirror. She was looking right back at me, and she smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was a shark smile. Who are you talking to? I asked. My voice cracked. My cousin, she said. The one we are going to see. I thought you were running for your life. She laughed. It was a cruel, dry sound. You watch too many movies, hero. I realized then what was happening. It is an old trick, but usually they do it in bars. The honey trap. They use a girl in distress to lure a guy to a second location. Once you get there, a crew is waiting. They box your car in. They pull you out. They beat you, take your wallet, take your car, maybe force you to give up your ATM PIN. Sometimes they unalive you just to get rid of the witness. I was driving her right to the slaughterhouse. I looked at the GPS. We were 3 miles from the drop-off. We were entering the city limits now, passing the dark, empty shells of the factories. Hey, she said, her voice dropping. Why are you slowing down? I hadn't realized I lifted my foot off the gas. I think I have a flat tire. You don't have a flat tire, she snapped. Drive the car. She leaned forward. I felt something cold and sharp press against the side of my neck, right below my ear. Keep driving, she whispered. If you stop, I will stick this right in your jugular. I know exactly where the artery is. I was paralyzed. I could feel the point of the object digging into my skin. I gripped the wheel. I had no choice. I had to drive her to the gang. But then I saw it. Up ahead, under a flickering streetlight, there was a speed trap. A police cruiser was sitting in the median, lights off, radar gone out. I had never been so happy to see the police in my life. Do not do anything stupid, she hissed. Drive past him. Normal speed. I made a split-second decision. I slammed the accelerator to the floor. The little Honda engine roared. The car jerked forward. What are you doing? She screamed. The sharp object dug harder into my neck. A trickle of blood ran down my collar. I am speeding. I yelled. We flew past the police car, doing 95 miles per hour. I laid on the horn as we passed. Beep. Immediately, the cruiser's headlights flashed on. The red and blue lights exploded in my rearview mirror. The siren wailed. "You idiot!" She shrieked. She pulled the object away from my neck. I pulled over immediately, screeching to a halt on the shoulder. "Get out!" I yelled at her. "Get out or get arrested." She looked at the cop car pulling up behind us, then at me. She spat on the back of my head. She threw the door open and bolted. She ran into the darkness of the abandoned rail yard beside the road. She was fast. By the time the officer got out of his car, she was gone. The officer approached my window, hand on his holster. I had my hands on the wheel, shaking like a leaf. "Step out of the car," he ordered. I got out. I told him everything. I showed him the blood on my neck. He searched the back seat. She had left her weapon behind in her panic. It wasn't a knife. It was a sharpened screwdriver, the tip filed down to a needlepoint. The police did a search of the area she wanted to go to. They found a vacant house with a garage door open. Inside, they found 3 stripped cars and a pile of wallets. It was a chop shop operation. They had been luring drivers there for months. I never drove for a rideshare app again. I finished my degree and got an office job. A boring, safe office job. But sometimes, when I am driving home at night and I see a car stopped on the shoulder or someone walking alone in the dark, I don't slow down. I lock my doors, I turn up the radio, and I keep driving. There is a specific kind of regular customer you get when you drive a taxi. The lonely ones. The ones who don't really have a destination. They just want to move. They want to sit in the back of a car and watch the world go by because they don't feel like they belong in it anymore. I had a regular like that. His name was Mr. Henderson. He was a nice old guy, maybe in his late 70s. He looked like everyone's grandfather cardigans. Thick glasses, a soft, trembling voice. He lived in an assisted living facility on the west side. Every Sunday afternoon, like clockwork, he would call for a cab. I started picking him up exclusively because he was easy. He tipped $5, he was clean, and he was quiet. Usually, he just wanted to go to the park or to a diner for soup. But one Sunday in October, he got in the car and gave me a different address. "Take me to 420 Briarwood Lane," he said. I knew the area. It was an older neighborhood, the kind of place that was nice in the 60s, but had gone downhill. "Visiting family?" I asked, resetting the meter. Mr. Henderson stared out the window, a strange, distant smile on his face. "That used to be my house," he said. "I built the deck in the back. I planted the oak tree in the front yard. I want to see it again. My memory is getting fuzzy, you know. I want to see it before I forget. Dementia is a cruel thing. I had seen it with my own mom. So, I felt for the guy. "Sure thing, Mr. Henderson. We will take a drive-by." The ride was about 20 minutes. As we drove, he started talking. He usually wasn't very talkative, but today he was rambling. He was talking about the house. It had a beautiful basement, he said. Soundproof. I put the insulation in myself. You could scream your head off down there, and nobody upstairs would hear a thing. It was my workshop. "That is nice," I said, only half listening. "Did you do woodworking?" "I fixed things," he said. "I cleaned things up." "Messy things?" I frowned slightly at the mirror. "Messy things?" "Oh yes, the stains. You have to use bleach for the organic stains, but you can't use it on wood or it warps. You have to sand the wood. Sand it down until it is new again." He was rubbing his hands together. His hands were shaking. "I had a red rug," he continued. "My wife, Martha, she hated that rug. She said it was too dark, but it was practical. It hid the spills. Martha was always spilling things. Clumsy woman. His tone had changed. It wasn't the soft, grandfatherly voice anymore. There was an edge to it, a bitterness. We turned onto Briarwood Lane. It was a quiet street, lined with trees that were shedding dead leaves. We pulled up to 420. It was a small, ranch-style house. The paint was peeling, and the lawn was overgrown. It looked abandoned. "Stop here," Mr. Henderson whispered. I idled the car at the curb. He stared at the house. He didn't blink. His breathing got heavy, rattling in his chest. "They didn't find it," he mumbled. I turned around. "Find what, Mr. Henderson?" He looked at me. His eyes were clear. Suddenly, terrifyingly clear. The fog of age was gone. "The loose brick," he said. "Behind the furnace. In the basement. I cemented it over, but if you look closely, the mortar is a different shade. That is where I put the pieces." A chill went down my spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "Pieces of what?" He smiled. It was a smile of pure malice. "Of the problem, Martha. She wouldn't stop screaming. She wouldn't stop crying about the baby. So I fixed it. I took them down to the soundproof room. I made it quiet. I stared at him, my mouth dry. I didn't know if this was a dementia delusion or a confession. "Mr. Henderson," I said slowly, "I think we should go back to the home now." "She is still in there," he said, pointing a shaking finger at the house. "I can hear her." "Can you hear her?" "She is scratching at the brick." He started to reach for the door handle. "I need to check the mortar. I need to make sure it held." "No." I hit the child lock button on my door panel. "We are leaving." He started pounding on the window. "Let me out. I have to check the work. I have to sand the floor." I floored it. I drove away from that house as fast as I could. He screamed and thrashed in the back seat for a mile. And then, just like that, he slumped over and fell asleep. By the time we got back to the assisted living facility, he was the confused old man again. He woke up, paid me his $5, and asked if we had gone to the park. I didn't take his money. I watched him shamble inside. As soon as he was gone, I pulled out my phone. I typed 420 Briarwood Lane into Google. The first result was a news article from 1978. Local dentist vanishes. Wife and infant daughter missing. The article said that Dr. Arthur Henderson had reported his wife and child missing. He claimed they had left him. Police suspected foul play, but never found any bodies. They searched the house, but the forensics were clean. Dr. Henderson eventually moved away, changed his name, and fell off the grid. I sat in my car, reading the article on my tiny phone screen, shaking. I drove straight to the police station. I told the detective everything. I told him about the basement, the soundproofing, the loose brick behind the furnace. They got a warrant. They went to the house, which had been empty and bank-owned for years. They brought in a sledgehammer and cracked open the false wall behind the old furnace. They found them. 2 skeletons. 1 woman, 1 infant. Mr. Henderson, or Dr. Henderson, was arrested at the nursing home that night. He was too far gone with dementia to stand trial, but at least the family had closure. I quit driving for a week after that. I couldn't stand the silence of the cab. I kept imagining what else my passengers were remembering as they stared out the window. Every time I looked in the rearview mirror, I expected to see that smile. That sudden, lucid, evil smile of a man remembering his sins. Now, whenever I pick up an elderly passenger and they ask to visit an old address, I say the meter is broken. I won't do it. Some memories are buried for a reason, and some houses should stay empty. And that's all for tonight. Remember, The most terrifying monsters are the ones that look just like us. The ones who might even live right next door. If these stories serve as a good reminder to trust your instincts, then show your support and like and subscribe. Hitting that bell means you'll get a warning before the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.